if a leader wanted to do something economically progressive, but the electorate doesn't want them to, is it the electorate's fault? Should said leader moderate themselves or risk election losses and do it anyway? I'm not including dictatorships as a variable because those mean brutal reactions by the government. So so this is like, we could take this in two ways. I think there are two interesting ways to answer this that come up with very different conversations. The first one is the more cut and dry one, which is like, say if a miracle happened and the UK had a prime minister that wasn't transphobic, and they knew that by passing non-transphobic legislation that they would almost guarantee their not being elected and that they would be very unpopular policies. Should that leader sort of reject the democratic mandate to ensure minority rights, or is that in some way undermining the democratic process? I mean, that one's pretty cut and dry. I think that minority right protection is a way of protecting democracy in a way that's not just like defaulting to strict majoritarianism, I guess.
Yeah.
The other one would be like if Bernie Sanders somehow became president but like lost the popular vote. Like if somehow he won with like the way Republicans win elections.
Yeah.
And he tried to put in like Medicare for all if like popular support wasn't there for such a program. Unfortunately, a lot of progressive legislation is extremely popular with people and is unpopular with leaders. So that side of the question doesn't usually happen. There's not usually a time where like the people in charge want to add more social programs, but the people are just far too conservative to push it. That is a myth that liberals tend to say is a thing, but it's not a thing that happens in reality. So it's not a likely situation.
Yeah, it reminds me of a pretty shitty study, like a depressing study that I saw a few years ago, I think, where someone tried to, because you can basically do you can basically do some statistics on like how well democracy works by polling people to see what they want, and then you can like check on how likely that is to become law and like become part of what the country does, right? For most countries, that's like pretty okay. Some like there's a bit of lag. There's often like a bit of a disconnect. And for America, there is no correlation, like at all. Like it literally does not matter whether or not the American populace likes something, or if they do not. It literally doesn't matter. All that matters, the vast like big indicator to see whether or not something would pass or not was whether or not billionaires liked it or not. Mm-hmm. That is what happened. The electorate didn't like literally doesn't matter in the U.S. in U.S. politics when it comes to likelihood of being passed in the legislature.
Mm-hmm. Somebody just asked in the chat, what's an example of liberals doing this kind of thing? The biggest one is almost everything that was used to be weaponized against Bernie Sanders. Like any time that they tried to make the argument that Bernie Sanders pushing a lot of popular policies that no other politician was pushing was somehow going to cost them the election. If you think about it that way, that was essentially them saying to the people, like that was them basically trying to make the argument that people are too conservative for you to push progressive legislation. When like in reality, his ideas are like some of the most popular ideas in the policy ideas in the country.
Yeah, I would say that that's just like a case with healthcare in the U.S. in general, like where almost everyone in power will say that we can't do like just free healthcare because it's unpopular. But when you poll people, like 70% or something like that think that healthcare should be guaranteed as a right for free.
It averages out to 70%. It's about like 80% with Democrats, and it's about like 60% with Republicans.
Right, but even fucking Republicans think this. Even people who see the current like the political like spectrum thing and see how fucked up the Republicans are and still vote for them, even they think like have pretty sensible views on this thing.
So yeah, it's That situation
Nice.
almost never comes up, but I don't exactly know what the answer would be in that situation because it just feels like such a weird position. It's such a strange hypothetical.
It would be a certain percent. I would say that like at that point I probably wouldn't do anything. I probably would defer to like the democracy. Just generally. I feel like you would do a lot more harm than good by going against democracy in that situation.
Yeah, because
Just
like
like as a general rule, obviously there might be extenuating circumstances, but
yeah, because putting in any sort of like big policy that is deeply unpopular and is designed to be economically progressive will do more to just hurt the branding of the project than actually do it. It seems like that would be a case where you have a lot more selling to do. Like you have to kind of put effort into convincing people why these programs are good, not so much just like ramming them through. You have to build
yeah, exactly.
support. I think that's the thing that politicians do. They sometimes are like shop their policy around and get people to support it.